opportunity to begin the wave of justice right here in Georgia, right here in Atlanta.
Good afternoon. Welcome to President Politics, live on Love 860 WACE AM. I'm your host, Robert Patillo. Our other co-host, Rashad Ritchie, isn't here today. Filling in for him will be Richie, our good friend and political analyst who's going to talk about some of the issues today. Richie, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Doing great. All right. Now, the big thing in the news this week has been Syria. As many of you know, President Obama has proposed military action in Syria after the recent use of chemical weapons by the Assad regime. The problem with this is that many people in America have Iraq fatigue. We are a nation that has been at war for over a decade. We've been at war in Iraq. We've been at war in Afghanistan. We cannot afford another engagement in the Middle East with ill-defined goals, ill-defined gains, ill-defined logic on either entry or exit. However, the president has pushed this plan. He is still insistent that the United States of America needs to, at a minimum, do airstrikes in Syria in order to stop the Assad regime from using chemical weapons against their own people. Now, the U.S. has a dubious history with this. When we first started in Vietnam, it wasn't as a occupying force. We never intended to go there and engage in a 10-year quagmire. We sent military advisors to Vietnam under the Kennedy administration, which snowballed into a war. When we got involved in Iraq, it was supposed to be quick in, quick out. It was supposed to be rolling thunder. We were supposed to have a quick entry and an exit strategy, which turned into a 10-year quagmire. None of us believed Afghanistan would be the longest war in U.S. history when it started, but it did. So this idea, this concept that somehow the United States of America will come in, drop a couple bombs on Syria, end the civil war in 2 weeks, and everything will be just fine and dandy. We'll go back to football. I don't think many Americans believe. And so President Obama has put out every government official he can think to try to convey this to the American people, to try to sway public opinion. Just this week, we saw Senate hearings with former Senator John Kerry, now Secretary of State, explaining the rationale for the bombings, or explaining the rationale for going to war to the Senate and to the American people. But still, many senators, many congressmen, and many in America disagree with this idea and disagree with this concept. And I think primarily, and I'm going to turn to you now, Richie, I think primarily the issue is that so many people don't see the purpose in going to Syria. What do you think?
You know, it's a really tough situation. I mean, it's incredibly egregious, a chemical attack, by Assad. 1,400 civilians killed. It's about as bad as it gets. But the tough situation is, in all honesty, we don't have any backing right now. This is the same story we've seen on multiple occasions. The United States has to go in all by itself. And I understand the feeling that, we have to ensure justice in the world. We have to make sure that the innocent people that are hurt and killed in these regimes are protected, but it's tough. Just look at the UN the conferences that just went on. Putin was up in arms against this whole situation. And that's tough. China and Russia, who are, Assad's main military and political backers, are not budging. They're not budging at all. And it's really tough to go against the general consensus, especially because the UN's waiting to see about their chemical people to check on and see if this actually happened. They want proof.
Yeah, but the question is, even if it is proven that chemical weapons were used, why is it the U.S. responsibility to go in and solve this?
I really don't know. It's more. This is something that's lasted for years. This isn't something that's new. It's been a general understanding amongst American military might and politics that we are the nation that ensures democracy and freedom and the safety of the people that are harmed in this world. And it's a great premise to live by, but we can see in the past how much it's hurt us. Iraq's a perfect example.
And the interesting thing about that idea, the idea of the United States as being the global nanny, as being the mother of all nations, that we have to go around and ensure that everyone's clothes are put up, everyone's food is eaten, the plates are cleaned, is it goes completely against the fundamental principles of America. If you look at our founding fathers, if you look at George Washington's farewell address, the first thing that he said was that he wanted Europe, the European powers, to stay out of the affairs of North America, to stay out of the affairs of the fledgling nation, to ensure that we have the ability to grow our democracy, that we aren't wed to the teat of other nations, but that we can have our own independence. If you look at the Monroe Doctrine that took place after during the Monroe administration after the War of 1812, the entire idea was to give the United States the space to have hegemonic power, that the European powers stay out of the affairs of the Western Hemisphere, we stay out of the affairs of the Eastern Hemisphere. You do your thing, we do our thing. But then, for some reason, this changed. It had changed right around the administration of Woodrow Wilson in 1817 and leading into World War II. When this concept of American power, as we rose in power, we came with this idea that we need to, quote unquote, make the world safe for democracy. And with this idea of making the world safe for democracy, you saw the first League of Nations proposed, which later turned into the UN. You saw the 14-point plan to ensure democracy worldwide. You saw the United States grow into an expansive power to become the world's sole remaining superpower. And with that, we took upon ourselves the burden of ensuring safety and security worldwide. Now, this worked for a while. This seemed like a good idea. That's how we got involved in World War I. We didn't have direct interest at the beginning of World War I. We were trade partners with Germany. We were trade partners with England. But eventually we decided it was for the best of the United States and best of the world to come on the Allied side. This was the same philosophy that took us into World War II. In the beginning of World War II, we were a neutral nation, all the way until the attacks on Pearl Harbor. This is how we got involved in Korea, because Korea didn't pose an imminent threat to the United States. They didn't threaten U.S. interest, but we decided that for the best of the world powers that we should become involved. But it's gotten to the point now that we are investing so much U.S. time, so much U.S. money, so much treasure, and so many lives there, that can we really sustain this?
Well, funny thing, I'm going to go back a little bit in time. I'm going to have to disagree with you on World War I and World War II. I mean, obviously, World War II, we were attacked on our home soil, which I think provocated a war no matter what. But
on World War II, it's interesting because we were attacked by Japan, but we ended up going to war against Germany, Italy, and the rest of the world, all the armistice powers, and not just Japan.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously Japan was engaged in the war more on the eastern,
on the Pacific front.
Well, on the Pacific front, but obviously they were allied with Germany, and I mean, to a certain extent, Germany and Italy at the time, and the rest of the Axis powers. But I think we just saw it as we had to prevent Germany's eventual takeover stop the eventual takeover of England and already takeover of France. But when I think about World War I mean, I know you mentioned Woodrow Wilson as someone that brought us into this. I mean, obviously the First World War. Woodrow Wilson stood by his pledge for the longest time to keep America out of war. And he was diehard in it, no matter what. I mean, the British appealed to him, the French appealed to him, everyone appealed to him. And he said, we're staying out. This isn't between us and Europe. I mean, despite what's going on, this isn't between us. And there's a really interesting story behind this, which finally provoked Woodrow Wilson to take America into World War I, is that Germany was constantly nervous that the United States would enter the war. I mean, they were pushing Russia back towards the east, and they were fearful that the United States would come in. And what they did is they sent secret telegrams and tried to bring Mexico into the war to start a territory war with Texas. And they also called upon Japan. And the United States, or actually Britain, intercepted these messages and sent them along to Woodrow Wilson, and I think that was kind of the final straw. But no, I completely agree with you. It's been a pattern. Vietnam, Korea, Afghanistan. I mean, Afghanistan, we jumped in. This was the first terrorist attack this country had seen on this kind of proportions. I mean, we had been attacked. The World Trade Center had been bombed before, but we jumped right in, and it was a gut reaction. You know, it's a gut reaction. The sentiment in this country was so ticked off. People were mad. People were upset. They were sad, and they wanted justice. And George Bush rode that sentiment and took us straight into Afghanistan and straight into Iraq, and we're still paying the price of it.
And you know, the interesting thing about that is there's some exact parallels between what happened in Afghanistan and what we're thinking about doing now in Korea. Because what we consider now to be Al-Qaeda in the 1970s and 80s, we called the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. And when the Mujahideen were fighting against the Soviet Union, we were the country that armed them. We sent arms to them. We trained their military. We trained their fighters. They fought off the Russian army. The Russians were coming in with tanks and helicopters and bombers, and we were sending over missiles for them to fight with.
Yeah, there are photos of Osama bin Laden back in the day training with American and Russian troops.
Exactly. So we armed those rebels. They fought back the Soviets, and then we found out that, hey, the enemy of my enemy isn't always my friend. Sometimes the enemy of my enemy is still my enemy.
Well, in many ways, like for me, World War I, World War II, it made sense. It made sense because that was a continental war. I mean, that war took place over the course of several countries. I mean, that World War II was the last true war in my mind, and in many ways, it's not that black and white anymore. You know, this isn't who's on the one side and who's on the other. It's not one versus the other. It doesn't work that way anymore. There's some rights and there's some wrongs, and we got to look at it from a different perspective. We need to. It seems like we're still stuck in that mindset that we can send troops over and we can bomb them and it'll all be over. And what was the phrase that George W. Bush used when we bombed Iraq? Like, I can't remember, but it was it was something. Oh, getting it done, or like
get her done, or something like that.
Something.
Yeah, but you know, it's interesting because after the experience we just had with Afghanistan, arming the rebels, and then 20 years later fighting the rebels, now we're talking about going to Syria and arming the rebels to bring down the Assad regime, launching airstrikes to bring down the Assad regime, and then we have no idea who we're arming. We have no idea who we're training. We have absolutely no idea who will be in power afterwards. And even if you want a closer example, look at what just happened in Egypt. Mubarak was the dictator. The Arab Spring took place. We immediately went in and helped the rebels take down Mubarak. They inserted Morsi. The Egyptian people didn't want Morsi because that was a puppet government, so they brought down Morsi. So now we have complete chaos and a military coup in Egypt, and we're talking about doing the exact same thing in Syria. We're lighting the entire region up to be a powder keg.
Oh, of course.
Iraq is still not stabilized. Mm-hmm. Afghanistan is still at war. In chaos with a military dictatorship. Syria is in the midst of a civil war, and we all hate Iran. So where's the stability? The only allies we have left are King Abdullah in Jordan. We have Saudi Arabia, who aren't really our friends, but rather trade partners. And the entire region is set up as a powder keg, which I believe if we get involved in another conflict, the entire thing might just go off.
Oh, I mean, I completely agree with you. It's been a powder keg for a long time now. And it's tough. You know, it's really tough as people who have the ability to take action, the capability, the military might, the financial backing to do something. It's tough to sit there and say, wow, these people are getting massacred by their own leaders. This is tough. But at the same time, it just opens that whole new door that we can't do it.
And the other problem is that the U.S. is very selective about who we care about getting massacred. If you're getting massacred over a pile of oil, we care. If you're getting massacred in Africa, not really our problem. If you're getting massacred in South America, not really our problem. If you're getting massacred in Southeast Asia, not our problem. If you're getting massacred in Chicago, that's not our problem either. If you're getting massacred in Detroit, that's not our problem. If we're going to be sending military units somewhere, let's send them to the south side of Chicago. Let's send them to the streets of Detroit. Yeah. Let's stop the killing there before we stop the killing in Syria.
Oh, I completely agree. I mean, the problem is you've got to find that middle ground. I mean, the isolationist attitude that this country used to have doesn't necessarily work. But the all-in or nothing attitude that we've had in the past couple of years doesn't work either. And there's got to be a middle ground. And I think the middle ground's got to be working with these other powers. I mean, we see China and Russia are vehemently saying we are not getting involved. And unfortunately, we can't afford to oppose them. We can't. Mm-hmm. And the UN is skeptical. I mean, we can't afford to go in alone again. It's just, we may be a world power still. I think that's constantly up for debate. You know, there are so many factors that go into that. But we can't afford to do that. These countries are on the rise. They're working hard at developing their own interests.
All right. Well, we're going to go to our first break. We're going to come back and we're going to look at some local politics. We're live here on Love 860 AM, Present Politics.
I think Ford service is great, but I wondered what a customer thought. So I snuck up on one.
How are you?
I'm Mike.
And I'm Jackie.
Jackie, tell me why somebody should bring their car to the Ford dealership for service instead of any one of those other places out there.
They have wonderful service.
What do you drive, Jackie?
2007 Ford Escape.
How many miles you got on it?
About 62,000 at the moment.
Okay, so how often do you find yourself here at the service center? Is it all about preventive maintenance at this point?
Yes, it is. I come and make sure I get my oil changed, and when they tell you your tires need to be rotated, you got to get that done as well.
Price is right?
Yes, price is right. No problem.
Let the experts help you get more life from your vehicle with the right battery at the right price. Right now, buy a high-performance Motorcraft Tested Tough Plus or Tested Tough Max battery and get a $25 mail-in rebate, only at your Ford dealer.
So you take care of your car?
Yes, I do.
Because you love your car.
Yeah, because if you take care of it, it'll take care of you.
Rebate by check. See participating Ford dealer or visit FordOwner.com for rebate details through 3/31/13.
Hi, I'm Stephanie Abrams. The lives of ordinary people are ensnared in a web of intrigue, and it all starts with rumors in my new novel. The story is fast-paced and draws the reader into the characters' experiences as secrets, lies, and conspiracies grow from rumors and create chaos in a quiet suburban community. Rumors, your perfect leisure time companion.
Rumors by Stephanie Abrams. Visit Amazon.com, where Rumors is available in print and Kindle formats, BarnesandNoble.com, and Exlibris.com in print and ebooks. Or go to sabrams.com/rumors to click right through. sabrams.com/rumors.
Rumors by Stephanie Abrams. That would be me.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Present Politics here on Love 860 AM WACE. I'm your host, Robert Patillo, here with our guest host, Richie North. So just a little bit about the show. A lot of you, this is your first time tuning in, probably because this is our first show. My background is I'm an attorney here in Atlanta. I have years of experience in civil rights law and in activism in the community. I've worked on campaigns since I was about 16 years old. There's actually pictures of me and working on Dukakis's campaign back in 1988. I've worked on the presidential level, state, local, and national campaigns. One of the things I really want to bring to our listeners and bring to the people of this state is just this open idea, not partisan. And I think that far too often our politics get bogged down in partisan ideology. I don't know very many people who are pure partisans in their real life. People have conservative ideas. People have progressive ideas. People have ideas that don't often mesh with even some parts of their own family, some parts of their own coworkers, some parts of their own communities. But I believe that each person have the ability to present their views, not as a Republican, not as a Democrat, but as a human being, and to have those voices heard, and also to have them respected and get these ideas put out into the public marketplace and brought together. Our other co-host, Rashad Ritchie, who had a family issue today and wasn't able to join us. He's one of the most respected political minds, political strategists in the state. He's the former political director for the Democratic Party of Georgia, consultant on many campaigns, one of the best lobbyists anyone has ever known. And he will be bringing that fiery progressive agenda that I believe many people want to feel. We also have with us one of our contributors, Richie North. Richie, want to give them a little background on yourself?
Sure. Like you, I am an Atlanta resident, born and raised here. We've been working in political campaigns for about 4 years now. Actually, started with you back on the Ken Hodges campaign for Attorney General a couple years ago, but I've been doing this for about 4 years. Worked statewide campaigns, local city campaigns, state representative campaigns, a little bit of everything. So, born and raised here, and I agree completely with Robert that the importance of talking about politics isn't always about partisanship, Republican, Democrat, red or blue. It's talking about open ideas and an open platform that we can all express how we feel about things. And that's the thing. One thing I always try to share with people about politics as someone who works in the business is that we all may look at the labels Republican or Democrat, but that the majority of the people in this country are moderates, and the majority of people in this country maybe slightly fiscally conservative. They don't want to pay that much in taxes, but they don't feel too inclined to tell other people how to live their lives about social issues. So I think most of us feel that way. I mean, there are obviously people on the far ends of the spectrum on both sides of the playing fields, but it's great to have a discussion about open-ended politics. So.
It's interesting about that point because I will, like you said, about 90% of the people in this country are somewhere in the middle of the political spectrum. But it's that 5% on each end who are the loudest. Usually on talk radio, you're either hearing the 5 Rush Limbaugh percentage points all the way to the right or the 5 percentage points all the way to the left. And you never hear that right down the middle ideas of what people understand. Do most people think we should be feeding and clothing the least among us? Yes. Do they also wish they had more money in their paycheck each week? Yes. And it's about those hard decisions of the study of politics. Any freshman political science major learns politics is who gets what when, where, how, and most importantly, why. And that's what we want to cover on this show. How do we make decisions on who gets what when? How do we make the national decisions on whether or not we're going to invest more money in students' health care or if we're going to invest money in going to war in Syria? How do we make the decisions on do we risk the prestige, the national prestige? Do we risk looking weak to other governments by not following through with our promise of punishment and retribution for crossing the red line on chemical weapons? Or do we look here in America and decide that we're going to invest in our roads, invest in our bridges, invest in our streets, invest in our infrastructure? Who gets what, when, where, how, and why? Those are the questions of politics. Now, speaking of politics, I want to turn to local politics and some of the things that are going on right here in Georgia. As many of you know, our illustrious and well-loved and beloved Senator Saxby Chambliss had decided not to run for re-election. He says that Washington has become too toxic. Washington has become too murky, that he can no longer get anything done. What a lot of people are saying is that he was going to get beat for re-election. He might not have gotten out of the primary. As we know with the political right, there is no room for moderates in the political right now. You're either a Tea Party, Rand Paul Republican, or you're out. And Saxby Chambliss was a center-right Republican. He was conservative, but he wasn't all the way over there. And because of that, Republicans were threatening to primary him with somebody far to his right. And many are saying that's the reason he got out of the race.
I think a perfect example is back during the budget deficit crisis. Saxby was on that committee of 11 that proposed a bipartisan agreement on that. And I just remember hearing about the Georgia GOP furious that he's willing to even cooperate with Democrats on that. And to me, that's just a perfect example of the unwillingness to compromise. You know, I mean, not everyone's going to get their needs met. It's all about coming to that middle ground, both Democrats and both Republicans. And I mean, personally, I'm a moderate. I align more with Democrats, but I actually respected Saxby for his work on that. You know, it's about sitting down, and it's not an easy conversation to have for anyone, for Republicans or Democrats. And he sat down and said, you know what, we've got to talk about this rationally and come to a realistic decision that's going to affect America better, you know?
Yeah, and, you know, it's funny to me because it seems like the fringes, the political 5% on the end, they don't want government. They don't want governance. They don't want anything to get done. They want a clown show. They want a freak show. They want to be entertained. They want a circus. They want to turn to CNN and MSNBC each night, and they want to see people yelling and hooping and hollering, and they don't care if anything gets done. And then we wonder why our water is polluted, why we have a dome of smog over Atlanta every day during the summertime, why there's gridlock traffic while people are arguing about the president's birth certificates, why our children are 25th in the world in math and science and reading, and we're running around trying to find out whether or not evolution is real and whether or not climate change is real. We're not addressing real issues in America. We're addressing entertainment. Right now, our political class pretty much is a reality show. We want to find out I found out that John Boehner has a secret beef with Mitch McConnell. It's just like the Real Housewives of Washington, D.C. That's what we're dealing with.
I completely agree. And one of the most angering things to me, well, not angering, that's a little too much of a word, but a turnoff to me is, and it goes to both sides, is hearing Republicans say, oh, we need someone like Reagan again. Like, Reagan was a good president, but this isn't the 1980s. This is 2013, soon to be 2014. We need someone who can handle the current situation. I mean, whether that's education, and the fact that we, like you said, we are not number one in the world in education anymore. Shouldn't that be a concern? Don't we need to create an educated workforce that can challenge this country to exceed and to move on, and also challenge the other superpowers? I mean, you better believe China and Russia are putting out people that are willing to work hard and make it and do whatever it takes to make it and do well in this world. But it goes to both sides. We just can't have this kind of hearkening to the past as well. You know, living in the Reagan area, living in the Clinton area, living in whatever era. This is the present. We need to find politicians that are willing to adapt and learn specifically, not just stick with whatever they've been told and taught, but learn about the issues. I mean, that's to me is one of the most important parts about being a politician, understanding what you're working for.
You know, I'm glad you brought up Reagan, because I've actually wanted to make this point for years. Have you ever wondered why Republicans only talk about Reagan as their great president?
Well, I mean, George Bush obviously can't speak. I mean, he's not to be named. We know that.
If you look through history, Reagan was the only even decent conservative president in the history of the United States of America. Let's roll it through. Let's roll it back through history. Let's start it. Let's say.
Well, you can't forget Abraham Lincoln. But the funny.
Well, no.
But obviously,
it's a conservative.
I know. Different parties back then. Mm-hmm. Republican Party was basically the Democratic Party of what it is today. So they've shifted. But.
So if we take basic conservative principles, which are low taxes, low government intervention, laissez-faire economics, and basically a grand old party. If you go all the way back, let's start from Lincoln. Mm-hmm. Lincoln was progressive. If you look at his politics, he wasn't the best president. He wasn't all that history has made him to be, but he was a progressive. So you can't count him really as a conservative. The person who followed him, Andrew Johnson, was conservative.
Oh, yes.
And was one of the worst presidents in U.S. history.
Hello, Reconstruction.
Absolutely. If you roll it forward, all the conservatives that followed him, if you look at Grant or McKinley, those were all terrible presidents. The next good president was Theodore Roosevelt, who was a progressive. Mm-hmm. And then after Roosevelt, you go through Woodrow Wilson, who was pretty conservative in his thinking, except for military foreign policy, but overall wasn't the best president. And then we get into the Hoover, Coolidge, all the way up until Roosevelt, who was a progressive. After that, we end up with Truman, who was progressive, integrated military. Then you also follow that with Eisenhower, who was very progressive. Eisenhower integrated military. Sorry, that was a mistake on my part. He integrated military. He sent federal troops in to integrate schools. He built the interstate highway system. Martin Luther King even supported Eisenhower during the 1950s and supported Nixon in the 1960 election over Kennedy because of Eisenhower's record as being a progressive. This pushed Kennedy and Johnson to become more progressive. So after you have Eisenhower, Kennedy, Johnson, progressives in a row. Then we get to Nixon, who was horrible. Gerald Ford, who was horrible. So our next conservative president was Reagan, who was decent. Then we have George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush. So we've literally had one okay conservative president in the history of the country, and that's why Republicans spend so much time building him up into this titanic figure.
Well, the funny thing is Reagan in many ways was progressive too.
He was.
He was progressive. And that's the thing is Republicans are terrified. They're terrified of progressive politics because they look at it as this adapting and changing new form of politics, but that's what politics is. That's what the problem what we have in our politics today is. I mean, specifically, I don't mean to just point them out, but Republicans like to stick with the status quo.
Yes.
It's all this hearkening back to the good old times in Reagan, or the good old times when this president and Bush or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, this country changes on a daily basis. You can't just hearken back. There are new things going on. And why do you think the Democrats are more progressive? Because they understand they've got to fluctuate and change with public opinion, what needs need to be met by the people. I mean, that's politics.
And you're exactly right. And this is going to be the last thing I say before we go to break. That if you look at the history of the Democratic Party, the way the Democrats stayed in power is by moving and changing with the people and with the times. You're listening to Present Politics, Love 860 AM, WACE, Saturdays at 4 p.m.
Does credit card debt have you living paycheck to paycheck? Are you making minimum payments but only falling further behind? Then here's good news you'll love. Call the Thomas & Law Group and find out about our free no-obligation debt elimination program, guaranteed to settle your credit card debt or you don't pay. That's right. We'll find the absolute best debt reduction solution for you or you pay nothing. It's called Pay for Performance, and you won't pay a dime until the job's done. No upfront fee, no monthly fees, no banking fees, nothing until your case is settled. No other law firm does that. I'm a paid spokesperson, not a lawyer, and every case is different. But if you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt, call the Thomas & Law Group to learn about our new Pay for Performance program. Appointment times are limited, so call 800-229-9329 and find the relief from credit card debt that you desperately need with the full weight of our law group behind you. 800-229-9329. 800-229-9329.
Do you have unfiled tax returns or owe the IRS or state more than $10,000? If you don't take action now, your tax problem is going to get worse, much worse. Seizure of property, bank levies, wage garnishments, and potential criminal prosecution. And if you owe the IRS back payroll taxes, chances are you will be visited at your home or business by an IRS agent. Don't become paralyzed by fear. Take action now. Call the experts at U.S. Tax Shield for help. Our team of experienced tax attorneys can get you protected, stop collections, and negotiate a permanent settlement with the IRS and state, potentially saving you thousands of dollars. At U.S. Tax Shield, our tax advisors will review your case for free, inform you of your rights, and give you a guaranteed quote. No games and no tricky upsells. That's why we have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of satisfied clients. Put an end to your torment. Get protected. Get the shield. Call U.S. Tax Shield now at 800-299-1855. That's 800-299-1855. 800-299-1855.
You are listening to Love 860 WAEC, the 2013 Rhythm of Gospel Awards Radio Station of the Year. Congratulations to our staff, our show hosts, and our listeners. We are proud to serve you as Atlanta's inspirational talk radio.
Good afternoon. You're listening live to Present Politics with Robert Patillo and Rashad Ritchie. Sitting in for Rashad Ritchie today is another Richie North. You're listening live on WAEC, Love 860 AM. Call in 404-355-8699. And we're looking for you. Today we're talking about local and international politics. So, Richie, this is something I think both of us are passionate about, the issues with the Atlanta public schools and kind of the disparity between the different parts of the district.
Well, yeah, I want to give my personal testimony about that because I saw both worlds growing up as a child here in Atlanta. I went to public school for elementary school, and then after that I actually went to a prominent private school here in Atlanta. And the rationale behind that is because my parents just didn't feel comfortable sending me to the local public school. They didn't feel comfortable in the education. I mean, I hate to say it, but money can buy better education in many circumstances. But transitioning from that is, over the past couple of years, we've seen the horrible strife that's come with the Atlanta School Board and the whole catastrophe with the cheating scandal on the standardized tests throughout the Atlanta public school system and all the fallout from that. And I just want to bring up, I don't know if you guys have paid attention to the news, but they just recently finished, and it's just open and started for school now, the new North Atlanta High School on Northside Drive, actually up by the Lovett School, and is it Trinity that's there as well? There's another one there. So. I can't imagine the traffic because of that now. Goodness. But I think the total spent on the project, this isn't all from Atlanta, but by the state, was almost $146 million. And I'm not sure. I think the totals from the Atlanta school system was about 16 or 17 million. I could be wrong, somewhere in that budget range. But I am all for improving our schools, but honestly, I'm speechless. I'm really speechless at the amount of money that was allocated for one school. Because if you have the time, you know what? There you can see a full pictures and everything of the new school. It's beautiful, state of the art, everything, computer labs, fields, you name it. It's an incredible school. But to me, that's a lot of money that could be spent on other schools in this city. I mean, I understand completely the need to better our schools and put money and invest in our children, and it's what I completely advocate for it. But the way I see it is the Atlanta public school system in the state of Georgia trying to save public face after this whole debacle with the school system and then investing in it all into one horse. And you know what? At the end of the day, it's not just our children at North Atlanta that are important. It's our children all across the city of Atlanta and this state of Georgia.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that because some of the wonderful amenities that $147 million will buy you on a high school.
147, my bad.
$147 million on one high school will buy you a state-of-the-art athletic facility. They say that the North Atlanta High School athletic facility and gymnasium is better than most Division I colleges. That they have state-of-the-art sports medicine, state-of-the-art training facilities, and state-of-the-art staff that works with these athletes. So I'm going to be expecting some championships coming out of them anytime soon.
At least an NFL player a year. Come on.
Exactly. And also,
caliber player.
The new North Atlanta High School has an indoor shooting range.
Oh, my goodness.
Not basketball shooting, gun shooting for their rifle team. So North Atlanta High School will be using their $147 million to train snipers, which I know all high schools want well-trained shooters within the school because high school students never have the kind of emotional issues where training and access to guns would be a bad idea. But you know, the part about this that's so heart-wrenching is that I have a lot of friends who went to college with me, got their master's degrees, and became teachers in the Atlanta public school system. I know so much dirt was thrown on Atlanta school teachers during the quote-unquote cheating scandal. We're going to get on the subject of the trials in a second because a lot of that is a farce, and I think that's going to be coming out in the next few weeks. But the issue is, even though a lot of the money for North Atlanta High School didn't come from the city of Atlanta, there has to be some idea of accountability and some idea of proportionality that even if all the money didn't come from Atlanta, if we're going to be raising $147 million, how about we spend $80 million on North Atlanta High School and spread the rest around under some of the more impoverished school districts? There's still students walking to school on the south side of Atlanta, on the west side of Atlanta, with books that were published 10 years ago that aren't up to date, or with facilities that aren't fit. I remember when I was in high school, I went to high school in Columbus, Georgia, but we saw this disparity. I went to a high school, Kendrick High School, where in marching band, our instruments were, for the most part, about 30% duct tape. Before every game, the tuba section, we had a ritual where we would put enough tape around our instruments to try to get them to work for that game. Our drummers would be taping together drum heads to get them to work for the game. Meanwhile, we're playing a school across the way that has just lines of silver instruments up and down, brand new uniforms that were just bought. Their football players are running out of the tunnel in brand new Nike apparel, and we're buying our things secondhand. You can't have a second-class education and then wonder why you end up with second-class citizens. We have a situation now where it is a school-to-prison pipeline. That's what we are. Now we have a caller. We have Michael calling from Dallas. Michael.
Yes, Michael is here.
How are you doing, Michael? What's your question?
Yes, I have a question for Ricky. My question is, do you believe that the $147 million being thrown at the North Atlanta High School facility, is that just a response to the community that surrounds the school, and does that money, as far as the allocation for it, is that just a response to the community? And let's say the other schools that are in the Atlanta public school system, they of course are not. The community is different. So, do you think that high number is in direct correlation with the community that surrounds North Atlanta High School?
Oh, I mean, I completely agree that, yeah, definitely the community probably, of course, had its hand in the situation. You know, everyone's lobbying for their school to be improved. I I don't know the specific where they determined the funds from or how that came about. My only qualm with the situation is that just seems like an egregious amount of money to spend on one school. I mean, I don't think that we shouldn't improve our schools. I mean, North Atlanta needed to be improved. It's actually right down the road from my home, and it could use a revamp. You know, I mean, it's a better education for the kids, better facilities, better textbooks, better everything. But to me, it's just more or less the allocation of all this money for one school. You know, we have a lot of kids in this city that need help. We have a lot of kids at schools that didn't get this kind of funding and still won't get that kind of education that these kids at North Atlanta are getting. And to me, it was just an attempt by the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia to save public face from this whole scandal and invest all their money and put everything in one school. But I believe it. I mean, community interests definitely play a role when it comes to lobbying for funding for schools in different parts of the whatever is going on.
Yeah, but the thing is, we have 8 public high schools in the Atlanta public school system, and then we have 4 or 5 charter schools. So even if the community did get involved, even if they started fighting and marching and calling for justice and for equal funding, there's no way each of those schools are all going to get a $140 million renovation. So we have to, when we have this money come into the system, when we have this opportunity to really invest in education, we can't put all of our eggs in one basket. We can't say, all of you who go to North Atlanta High School, you're going to get these state-of-the-art facilities, and you're going to go to college, and you're going to go on to be stewards of your community, you're going to be doctors, you're going to be physicists, you're going to be engineers, and then the rest of you guys can just start getting ready for prison, because the only thing we're going to teach you how to do is just stay in school long enough to pass this test that we'll fill out for you, and then you'll go out into the real world and you'll have nothing that you can do but crime. So we have to, when we have opportunities like this, invest it across the board and not simply in one pot. Now, we do want more people to get involved, more callers. Again, the call-in line is 404-355-8699, WAEC Love 860 AM. So, Richie, what do you think about this idea of how would you better allocate these funds around to different schools?
Well, I think a lot of it comes from basically there needs to be better assessments of where a school is at. And that's the problem, is it's so outdated and old-fashioned in how we're determining our school's capabilities. And obviously facilities play a major role. If you've got a rundown school, like non-working air conditioning, especially in this Georgia heat, that's an issue. But it all starts with textbooks, teachers, like having smaller classroom sizes. We need to have people come in and look at these kind of schools and say, okay, this school needs this school needs this, and this school needs this. Let's allocate this and this and this and this to these different schools.
Absolutely. All right, we have JT calling in from Gwinnett. JT, are you there?
I'm here. Thanks for taking my call so speedily. I just tuned in, so I really don't know what's going on. Can you kind of bring me up to date? I heard the figure of $147 million going to North Atlanta High School. How did this happen? Who allocated the money? Where did the money come from?
All right, well, with North Atlanta High School, as Richie said earlier, the school's in need of renovations. So right. what they did was go to the city, go to the state, go to local contributors, go to different corporations, and raise the money to build one of the most state-of-the-art high schools in the country. They were able to raise this money. So all the money did not come from the Atlanta public school system. Don't want to give people that idea. It wasn't all.
Where did most of it come from?
Most of it came from private contributors who were willing to invest in the school to build the state-of-the-art facility. Our argument is that we believe that when one school has this humongous pot of money, that it needs to be distributed amongst the various schools. So we can't have one Taj Mahal in the north side of Atlanta, and then you have Washington High School right over there off of Ashby and MLK, where they were finding mold on band uniforms and they were finding rodents crawling throughout the library. It just doesn't make sense. The disparity is too high. There's no way that a child educated at Washington High School trying to fight rats off of their textbook is going to come out with the same results as someone who has an indoor shooting range and a state-of-the-art facility at North Atlanta High School.
I agree with the concept, but I guess it would take some legislation to direct privately something that's privately funded, though.
Well, see, the problem in Georgia is legislation is not something we're good at. We are not good at passing laws in this state, and the laws that we do pass are usually bad.
That's historical for the Southeast, I think.
Absolutely. I can't think of the last time Georgia had a good law. The last few laws that we had were, the voter ID bill, we had the immigration bill, we had the stand your ground law. We actually, if anything, we need our legislatures to pass fewer laws. We are very bad at this. So what we need is an agreement amongst people that even if we don't have to distribute this money around, we still should, because it's for the better of the district. Thank you for your call.
I agree with you.
Yeah, thank you for the call. We're about to go to break. Again, this is WAEC Love 860 AM. You're listening to Present Politics with Rashad Ritchie and Robert Patillo. Thanks.
If you're ready to make education a priority again, you're invited to see and hear the exciting changes at ITT Technical Institute. We can help build a whole new education plan for your future. Find the one right for you. With over 130 campuses nationwide, ITT Tech teaches skills and knowledge that can help you prepare for a number of technology fields. Perhaps ITT Tech can help you. Classes meet just a few times a week, and financial aid is available for those who qualify. So, what's stopping you? With hands-on applications and knowledgeable instructors, ITT Tech can help you pursue your potential. Get started with more information and make plans to schedule your ITT Tech campus tour. Your future starts now. Call ITT Tech toll-free at 800-758-2891. That's 800-758-2891. Right now, you can learn more about ITT Tech program offerings and bring your questions to ITT Technical Institute. 800-758-2891.
The world's largest circus under the big top is coming your way. The Cole Brothers Circus of the Stars presents the all-new 129th edition with tigers, high wire, death-defying motorcycle daredevils, and an international cast of amazing circus stars. This will be an explosive 2-hour musical spectacle under an enormous big top of crimson and gold. You don't want to miss the 129th edition of an American classic. It's the Cole Brothers Circus, enormously entertaining, amazing, affordable, where your family is always center ring. It's coming to you at Atlanta Motor Speedway 1500 on Highway 1941 South in Hampton. It will be on Friday, September 20th through Sunday, September 22nd. For showtime and tickets, go to tickets.com or give us a call at 1-888-332-5200. You can also visit gotothecircus.com for free kids tickets and more information. Cole Brothers Circus, where your family is always center ring.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Present Politics on Love 860 AM WAEC. Please call in. Call-in number is 404-355-8699, 404-355-8699. Here with our guest co-host today, Richie North. Our normal co-host, Rashad Ritchie, is out today. He will be with you next week. So, Richie, I wanted to switch the dynamic over to some of our local politics and our local races. We spoke a little bit earlier about Senator Chambliss not seeking re-election. So the entertaining part about that is that now we have a Republican primary that's going to be chock full of candidates and chock full of people vying for that seat.
It's going to be an interesting battle on both sides of the playing field, Democrats and Republicans. It's already heating up. The one candidate I've actually been paying attention to is David Perdue. He's a former Fortune 500 CEO of Dollar General, Reebok. His business pedigree is about as good as it comes. So I've been through the grapevine. I've just heard he's more of the front runner in the Republican primaries. Who were you telling me earlier just jumped in the race?
Oh, one of my favorites, Karen Handel.
Oh.
Karen Handel, who was nearly the governor of Georgia last time around. Her and Nathan Deal made it all the way to the runoff during the Republican primary. The interesting thing about Karen Handel is that she was former Secretary of State. She was the CEO of Susan G. Komen for The Cure, and also now she's a Senate candidate, but she does not have a college degree. So what does it say about the state of Georgia when a major political player, somebody who had a legitimate shot at being the governor of this state, somebody who was the Secretary of State, oversaw all corporations, oversaw all elections in the state, oversaw all of your paperwork, isn't college educated? What does that say about Georgia?
Maybe she's just that smart? I don't know. It's a little concerning to me. You know, I mean, unfortunately in today's world, especially as someone who's younger and just starting his career, that a college degree is now the new high school degree.
Absolutely.
You know, like everyone's getting masters and PhDs, and you've got to have a college degree to do anything. So it does surprise me that she's been able to really make it this far. I mean, more power to her to be able to handle that kind of a job level without a college degree. But in all honesty, for the Republican side of things, David Perdue's, he may not have been involved in politics for that long, but his pedigree is just, it's a little too much. And I think a lot of people look at it, as, well, if Karen Handel couldn't beat Nathan Deal, why can't he win this primary, you know? And Republicans might not be willing to invest in her or even support her at all.
Well, you know, it's interesting because my thought on this is it's almost smug at this point, because with the technology we have now with online degrees and University of not paying us, so we're not going to call their names, and this and that other college that you can just go to classes online, the fact of not having your degree and running for these high offices at this point is almost thumbing your nose at it, saying, I don't need it, I don't want it, I will show all of you that I don't have to have it. So that's why I don't understand the level of support for Karen Handel so often just statewide. We also have a lot of other Republican candidates in the race, in addition to Perdue, who we mentioned, and Karen Handel. Also, Congressman Phil Gingrey and Paul Braun are in the race. Now, this is what I always love about the Republican primary in Georgia for statewide office, because you have the candidates, and then you have the kind of candidates, and then you have your crazy uncles. Phil Gingrey and Paul Braun are the crazy uncles of the Republican Party in Georgia. These are your standard Tea Party Republicans. They're going to get that support of the far right wing. But the main thing that they're going to do, which I think is the most important point, is they're going to drive the entire primary to the right and off into crazy town. We're going to start getting into issues of birth certificates and going back to the gold standard. We're going to get into issues of whether or not we should destroy the Federal Reserve, and that everyone should carry around doubloons that will no longer loan to other countries, but somehow will still pay for a giant military. This is what Paul Braun and Phil Gingrey bring to the race.
Well, that's the thing. That's the crazy thing about Georgia is the general understanding, especially about primaries, is you cater to your own voters. I mean, we see it in the presidential every time. For example, the Republican primaries, they step up their kind of conservative nature and their conservative coddling. I mean, they're more concerned about appeasing the Tea Party people and all those kind of people. But once they win the primary, they try and shift more to the middle because, as we said earlier, most of America's in the middle. The funny thing is Mitt Romney didn't do the best job of it, but I mean, he's a perfect example of a failed campaign. But most politicians, whether Democrat or Republican, shift more to the middle. But the thing about Georgia is they come out of that primary conservative, and they never shift back to the middle.
Absolutely.
They stay diehard conservative, and the thing is, this may be a red state, but not everyone, and the majority of people in this state do not feel that way.
And, you know, it's funny because one of the reasons we've seen so much action on repression of voting rights in Georgia is because we've historically been a red state, but we shouldn't be a red state demographically. If you look at the state of Georgia, we are nearly 35% African American. We are almost 20% Hispanic. We are 51 to 52% female. We also have one of the largest LGBT populations in the country. Because of those demographics, if you put those together into a united front, this state doesn't turn purple, it turns deep blue. It will be one of the bluest states in the country. And the Republicans saw this coming 20, 30, 40 years ago. And what you saw was right after the election of Maynard Jackson as mayor of Atlanta, right after the civil rights movement, right after you saw the browning and the darkening of Atlanta, they started planning for what they were going to do when this day came. They instituted one of the strictest felony disenfranchisement laws in the country. Under the Georgia felony disenfranchisement law, you not only can you not vote while you're in prison, You can't vote while you're in prison, while you're on probation, while you're on parole, or even while any of your fines are outstanding. So what they effectively did was incentivize local Republican elected officials to arrest as many minorities as possible. Because once you get them into the system, you can keep them off the voter rolls for decades at a time.
And that's the thing to me is I'm all for having a competitive political sphere in this state with Republicans. Democrats and Republicans alike, I am all for it. But the problem is for the longest time, Republicans in this state have gone about their business, redistricting the districts they need to take over, and just making it this stagnant culture of politics. In all honesty, outside of Atlanta and the other major cities in this state, which aren't that many, it's stagnant.
And, also remember to call in 404-355-8699. But also the issue is that, okay, so we do felony disenfranchisement. The state still keeps getting browner. We do voter ID. So that now, instead of being what the law previously was if you were in a voting district and you brought in, your birth certificate, or you brought in a power bill, or you brought in some information to show that you were a resident and actually who you were, you could vote. But now you have to have a state government issued photo ID in order to be able to vote. The part that a lot of people don't understand is, so when you say government issued photo ID, if you go to Georgia State University, you can use your student ID to vote. If you go to Spelman, you can't, because Spelman's a private school, so they say that doesn't count as government issued photo ID. If you go to Clark Atlanta, you can't. If you go to Morehouse, you can't. If you go to Agnes Scott, you can't. If you go to Emory, you can't, because those are all private institutions. But if you go to University of Georgia, University of West Georgia, Atlanta Technical College, places like that, you can. So you're diluting and devaluing both liberal arts voters and young voters. Also, elderly people who don't drive don't have the photo ID needed to vote. So you sell those votes off. So then you look over also, what's the next thing we do? We pass immigration in 2010, Arizona-style immigration. You force immigrants out of the state of Georgia in droves. You drive down those number of Hispanic voters, and what do? You keep skimming off the top. You're not wholesale prohibiting people from voting. You're skimming a small percentage off the top to make sure that you can stay in power. And by doing this year after year, cycle after cycle, that's how you end up with a state like Georgia that is demographically Democratic, but electorally a supermajority of Republicans. And that's what the Republicans are counting on in the 2014 Senate race. And that's why we had these candidates like Phil Gingrich and Paul Braun, who are going to be, running on this Tea Party platform, running all the way to the right and dragging their cohorts to the right. The reason they don't move back to the center as other candidates do, they don't have to. Because of the barriers to voting that we have put up in this state, you can win with a strictly white male vote. A conservative country white male vote can win a Senate race in this state.
And that's the terrifying thing to me is the people that are voting for, say, Mitt Romney out in the middle of nowhere, Georgia, that I've never been. Perfect, like Meriwether County, Georgia, hypothetically. Someone who's a white male who's voting for Mitt Romney. Do you really think Mitt Romney has your interests? The man is making hundreds of millions of dollars a year and is taking millions of dollars in tax hikes. And do you think he really cares about what a farmer in the middle of Georgia is doing or any of these people? And it's kind of creating this culture that we have created this culture. You vote Republican because that's how it is. That's how we're supposed to do it. That's what we're supposed to vote.
Exactly.
And nothing changes.
Exactly. And people vote against their interests now. We have this odd political coalition that exists in America. We're going to make this point and then go to break. We make these odd political coalitions that even though you're poor, you're voting for tax cuts for rich people and cuts to health care that would affect yourself. We're live on WAEC Love 860 AM. Calling numbers 404-355-8699. Present Politics with Robert Patillo and guest host Richie North.
.860 AM WAEC Atlanta.
The opinions expressed during the sponsored programs on this station are strictly those of the program hosts, guests, and callers and are not necessarily those of Beasley Broadcast Group, this station, its staff, other advertisers, or agencies.
A car continuously filled with low detergent gas can only take you so far, while a car continuously filled with BP gasoline with Invigorate can go a little farther. When used continuously, BP gasoline with Invigorate helps clean and protect critical engine parts from harmful deposits, so your car can get a few more miles per tank compared to one that continuously uses low detergent gas. BP gasoline with Invigorate. Go a little farther.
Good afternoon. You're on listening to Present Politics with Robert Patillo and Rashad Ritchie. We have a special guest in studio today. We have Dr.
Winston Kyle Carhey Jr.
All right, and what brings you to us today, Doctor?
Well, I happen to be the chairman of the Georgia Chiropractic Association Political Action Committee, and we are very fortunate enough to be able to contribute money to the campaigns of the politicians here in the Georgia area who are chiropractic friendly and supporting the chiropractic causes.
All right, now what are some of the things that the Chiropractic Association does that you think the listeners should know about?
Well, the Chiropractic Association advocates for the rights of chiropractors and also chiropractic patients throughout the state of Georgia. We're making sure we have a fair market place for the healthcare providers in Georgia, and we're actually making it safe for the people to receive chiropractic care, and from a qualified chiropractor who is licensed by the State Board of Georgia.
All right, and it's interesting to me working in politics because people hear the word lobbyist. People hear the word lobbyist, they automatically think a negative connotation. What would you say want people to know about you as a political affairs and political action group for the Chiropractic Association?
Well, interesting. I mean, first and foremost, I'm a chiropractor. You know, I'm just part of an organization of a lot of able-bodied chiropractors, and so we're not a lobbyist. I'm just basically don't mind giving money to help for individuals who have campaigns who are very friendly to the cause of chiropractic. And, you know, basically, if anybody is a politician who wants to improve the health of their constituents, they should be for, good chiropractic laws in the state of Georgia.
Now, what are some laws that you think would be good chiropractic laws or laws that would help your constituency?
Well, anything that helps the consumer, and levels the playing field so that the consumer has choice, so that they can choose what type of health care they want. And sometimes it's about fairly reimbursing the provider providing the care. And so that's basically the type of things. But there's no laws out there right now that we are opposed to, but we're keeping an eye out for anything that may hinder the public from receiving care from a qualified chiropractor.
Now, me as an attorney, I've done personal injury law and personal injury cases, and one complaint I always hear from chiropractors is they feel like they're the last people in line to get paid, and oftentimes end up not getting compensated for the work they've done. Are there any laws currently working their way through the system that will help chiropractors?
Very interesting you would say that. I mean, there are any laws right now that I could put my finger on. I mean, but there are chiropractors who have conversations. A lot of conversations involve around a lien law because there are some insurance companies who may not honor certain liens that are placed by chiropractors. So that's something that we have our eye on. And we have, some chiropractors who do not like that law and would like to change it. So we'll see what the future holds.
It's interesting because I remember one of the first personal injury cases I ever did. We got the settlement. It was not a large settlement, and then we sent out the check to the client, sent out the check to the chiropractor. So about a year later, another chiropractor called me about the case and said that he was the first chiropractor on the case, and that we hadn't paid him for his lien. And instead of going through the court system, he said he was going to find me in the streets, and he didn't care what it was going to take. So I think we should have some laws that will protect chiropractors so that they don't have to resort to self-help, because I was hiding for a little while after that case. 404-355-8699 WAEC 860 AM. Call in for the good doctor. Now, what are some other things that the Chiropractic Association are up to in the community besides pushing for these laws to help legislators?
Oh, we do a lot of things. One of the great things we do is to give back. And giving back is very important, no matter what profession you're in. But very luckily, I happen to have, through my connections and my patients, connections through Hosea, Feed the Hungry and Homeless. We're able to contribute to their particular events, and we provide free chiropractic services for those individuals in need. And this is an association with Hosea, Feed the Hungry and Homeless, usually done around Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, and also MLK's birthday.
Okay, and I think something we want to explain for our listeners is exactly what chiropractors do, because some people it's interesting that some people think chiropractors are the same thing as a massage therapist, or the same thing. I can just go to Massage Envy and that's the same thing. Can you kind of explain the differences and what exactly your medical training allows you to do?
Yes, thank you very much. Well, yes, our training is strenuous. First off, you have to have a 4-year degree from an undergraduate institution prior to entering chiropractic college or university. And then you have 2 years of basic science training in that particular institution. Very similar to medical schooling, because the first 2 years are basic. Then you specialize on the 3rd year. So what's different about our particular training is that we have more hours associated around the spine and anatomy, more so even than medical training. So we're highly specialized in the musculoskeletal system. Then we go into the last 3 or 4 years, we do clinicals. So we have hands-on. We're treating people in clinics where the people come in for service from the outside, and they're under supervision of doctors in the university. And so by the time we graduate, we have honed our skills, and we know exactly how to diagnose and treat musculoskeletal systems. And so we can then open our doors immediately after graduating the 4-year degree of Doctor of Chiropractic.
All right, and now, how is it determined how many chiropractic sessions an individual needs when they come in for treatment? I had one client before who went to their chiropractor 9 times because of her back injury. Others go 3 times and they're just fine.
Mm-hmm. It would actually depend on the diagnosis and depend on the particular individual. It does vary. Depending upon the severity of the injury, depending upon the age of the patient, and the mechanism of injury. Okay, so it could be something as simple as waking up on the wrong side of the bed and having a muscle spasm in your neck. And we can be very effective at releasing that muscle spasm and realigning the joint. However, some cases you may have severe disc degeneration, and the individual may be older. So therefore, this is a more complex case, and you have other things to consider. Past or prior histories of injury, degeneration, joint stability, then the lifestyle of the patient as well depends on how well that patient will heal. So just as in every case, it is specific to that individual.
All right. And so do people normally come to you after, I know car accidents are a big way that people come to chiropractors, but what are some other reasons that people should visit a chiropractor?
Well, actually, I believe everyone should go to a chiropractor and have their spine checked because, number one, we all have spines, and our spines is under stress. I mean, you think about our particular society, and we are a forward head carrying society. So forward head carrying posture is something I see a lot in people. So we are driving, we stick our ears in front of our shoulders, and that places a great amount of stress on our cervical spine. And we're at the computer, we do the same thing, stick our head and neck forward. You could be sitting watching TV, sticking your head and neck forward. You might be listening to this radio broadcast, and you're constantly sticking your head forward. This is causing cervical strain. That cervical strain can lead to further degeneration of your cervical spine. Now, those nerves at the base of your neck, they go all the way down your shoulders and your arms to your fingers. But more importantly, the base of your neck and the upper part of your thoracic spine, they go to your heart, your lungs, and all of your internal organs. So it's been proven that if you interfere with those nerves, you can cause malfunction of those organs. So everybody needs to go get checked by their chiropractor and see if their joints are out of alignment.
404-355-8699. So what are some things you think people can do in their normal everyday lives to prevent some of these injuries, to prevent some of these trips to the chiropractor?
First off, you need to stretch regularly, all right, and have the proper range of motion. And this can be actually done very simply, all right, by leaning your head left and right and moving frequently, no longer than 2 hours in one particular position. Secondly, you must have proper diet. You must eat the right foods and not have too many of the junk foods. And I like to think of our diet, the American diet, as the standard American diet, which is sad because we do not eat properly. So having your basic food groups and having a good diet helps. Then you need to have a positive mental attitude. All right. All the studies have been showing that psychoneuroimmunology does help improve your health if you have a positive outlook on life. So that's very important. Those are the basic things, but there's a lot more that you should do to improve the way your spine is aligned.
All right. Now, so if you're dealing with someone, let's say I was your client, someone who has a high-stress job, who sleeps about 3 or 4 hours a night, who mainly eats junk food and stuff out of a bag, who does no cardio, doesn't exercise, sleeps all types of ways off the side of the couch in a lawn chair, just wherever I fall out. What would be your advice to help me?
Well, I would say time management seems to be something that is lacking in that situation. And then you would have to figure out what is doable for you. All right. And start slow. Don't try to bite off more than you can chew initially. All right. Find something, change it, create a habit. It's very interesting because habits are something that can be replaced. So you can have a bad habit and replace it with a good habit. All right. So that's what I do. I will start one habit and then change it and then continue that habit. You have to create that habit. It must take longer than, I think, 28 days for you to form a new habit. So try to get consistent, but take small steps. So one thing, try to sleep longer, not 5 hours longer, 1 hour longer, 30 minutes longer. Do that continually for 28 days, then change something else. All right. Start doing something like drink water, for about the first 3 days of the week. Try that for 28 days. Once you get used to it, you'll find it easier to change other habits. But you got to get into the habit of changing your bad habits into good habits.
All right. And now I see you're a married man. So how does chiropractic school help you with the ladies?
Interesting. Actually, I met my wife in chiropractic school. And I was actually the student president of an organization called the American Black Chiropractic Association. And I held meetings once a week. And as in every other organization, there's about 20% of the people that do 100% of the work. And we were there in the meeting, and one young lady kept on coming to the meeting, and she raised her hand, had very good ideas, and I noticed her. And I had a strict policy not to date anybody in my school because I was going to be strictly about business and make sure that I had the highest level of chiropractic knowledge while I was in school. But she was there, and my mother told me, hey, you might want to pay attention to a couple of women around the school, because she was tired of me being single and living at home with her. So I decided to give this one young lady a chance, and lo and behold, now she's Mrs. Carhey. Excuse me, she is Dr. Carhey.
Nice. So, fellas, what we have learned is that fix your diet, drink right, sleep right, eat right, exercise, stretch, learn how to use your hands, and you will find yourself a woman. Now, we're President Politics, WAEC Love 860 AM. Call in 404-355-8699. We're going to break. We'll be right back.
A picture is worth 1,000 words, so when you need pictures for family, your business, or special occasion, you need a professional. Hi, I'm Amelia Jackson, founder of Photography by Amelia Design, and my company specializes in highest quality photography for weddings, family portraits, and all types of events, even baby announcements. I guarantee world-class service at prices to fit any budget. You can come to my studio, or I can come to you. For perfect pictures, call Photography by Amelia Design. Mention Love 860 for a special discount. Call me at 678-485-0759. That's 678-485-0759. Or visit my website at photographybyameliadesign.com.
Who's watching your home when you're not there? It could be a burglar. Burglars prefer to break in when they think no one is home, and no one will stop them. Don't be an easy target for intruders. Protect your home with a free security system monitored by ADT, the leader in home security. Call now and get free hardware, free medical and fire alert, and free activation. It's an $850 value. Call right now and you'll also get 6 free sensors. That's 6 points of protection for free. Just call Protect Your Home, your authorized ADT dealer, at 1-888-987-3232. You'll get 24-hour protection, and there's no cost for parts or activation. Call now about a free security system monitored by ADT. Call 1-888-987-3232. $99 installation charge, 36-month monitoring agreement at $35.99 per month. Total package includes 6 door window sensors. Labor charges may apply. Call for terms and conditions to this offer and protect your home license numbers. Call now, 1-888-987-3232.
One little joint supplement. You know this powerful little pill is great for your joints, it's great for your cartilage, it even has powerful benefits to help increase your mobility and flexibility. But the joint supplements of today are sadly incomplete because they don't start relieving joint discomfort immediately. Until now. Introducing the complimentary 2-week sample of fast-acting Instaflex, our most powerful joint formula ever. It can start relieving joint discomfort in just a few days. The only thing our complimentary sample of Instaflex is missing is the price, because right now we're offering adults a complimentary 2-week sample as part of a nationwide giveaway. Call and claim your sample today. 1-800-946-9745. Great for your knees, hands, even your hips. Fast-acting Instaflex can start relieving joint discomfort in just a few days. Instaflex is available at GNC, Rite Aid pharmacies, and Vitamin World, where you can only get your complimentary 2-week sample by calling 1-800-946-9745. Call now for your 2-week Instaflex sample. 1-800-946-9745.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Present Politics, WAEC Love 860 AM. Phone number 404-355-8699. We're here with the good doctor and Dr. Richie North. What we want to talk about is some of the national issues regarding chiropractors and what we can do, how it affects us on the local level.
Yes. There are several. There's actually one bill in particular that's out there. I think it's not Bill 944. And this bill will have chiropractors have access to all the VA hospitals. Currently, there is only about 100 hospitals where chiropractors are allowed to see patients. And if you know anything about the VA and the type of injuries that are coming back now from over in Afghanistan, there's a lot of musculoskeletal injuries. And, I mean, they're coming back by the droves. And the VA, if you know about VA, they cannot handle the amount of volume they're getting right now. And they need to be referred out. Now, we would like to have a chiropractor in every VA hospital in order to treat these individuals, but they're probably still going to need, other chiropractors outside of the VA system, which I have come to my office personally, and then we can go through a process and they can actually be seen in our office and we can get reimbursed. But the first step is to get a chiropractor in every VA hospital, and you have to give back to your servicemen. I mean, they serve this country well. We have all the full benefits of their service. There's no reason why we shouldn't take care of them. So we want chiropractors there, and that's very important. I think it's Bill 944. So be on the lookout. Call your congressman right now. I think it's in the House, and we can help pass.
All right, you say right now it's in the House, so it hasn't made it out of committee yet, so it's just under proposal. It's not for a full vote yet.
Correct, I believe so.
Well, absolutely. I think that anyone who's either a veteran, who's in the military, who has relatives who are service people. My older sister spent 18 months over in Kuwait at the beginning of the Iraq War, and just some of the conditions they're in at the front, they absolutely require this kind of treatment when they come back. Mm-hmm. If you're sitting, there's a big difference between sleeping in a tent on standard $1,500 issue cot, and that's if you get that, or sleeping on the ground versus sleeping in your pillow top comforter back here in the States. So when you get back stateside, you need that chiropractic care. You have to realign the spine. You have to relax those muscles. They need this kind of treatment, and often they have to pay for it on their own dime once they get back versus having the military pay for it. And that's why this bill is so important and why we have to get in contact with our elected officials. And, you know, this one, the issues that I've found, particularly in the African American community, but also with young voters, that they don't become involved with politics or involved with elected officials until something specific happens to them. When they have a specific issue, then they become very passionate and very involved. But once those issues are done, they kind of fall by the wayside. Now, Rich, I know you had a point you wanted to bring up on this.
Oh, yeah. Got distracted for a minute.
Georgia game.
Yeah, Georgia game. We're up now. 2 touchdowns, and a field goal. But
we are still in the South. Some things have priority.
It's a balance of all. It's a balance. Come on.
Look, you have to remember there is the Georgia game. Okay. After that is church. After that is your mother's birthday. In that order. This is the South. But you were making a point during the break about this.
Oh, no, I think it's important for young people. I mean, it's someone, I'm 24 years old, to get engaged in politics when they're young, you know? Even if it's not, you don't need to work in politics. You don't need to try to get a job in Congressional Hill. You don't need to do that, but you need to be involved. Not just with specific issues, like Robert said, down the line when they become relevant to you, but from a young age, understand what's going on in politics and become aware and cognizant of that. And try and play a role, because one of the biggest reasons things don't get done in politics is the people don't honestly know. People don't pay attention, and they don't know.
And you know, a big part of that is a lot of the times the special interest groups are playing chess, and the voters are playing checkers. You know, they're thinking 4 or 5 moves down the line when the voter is thinking directly in a straight line. I need to get from point A to point B. Now, that being said, this transitions great into our next issue of some of the local politics and local races that we've been talking about all day on the show. You know, we have a Senate campaign coming up in 2014. We already have declared candidates on the Republican side. We have David Perdue, we have Karen Handel, we have Paul Braun, we have Phil Gingrey. We also have declared candidates on the Democratic side. We have State Senator Steen Miles, who's running. We have Dr.
Radulovaki. It's tough.
I cannot pronounce his name. Branko Radulovaki. Dr. Rad is running.
Yeah, that's what it is.
We also have Michelle Nunn, his daughter of former Senator Sam Nunn, who's running on the Democratic side. So has your organization reached out to any of these candidates or decided which one they're supporting?
No, I don't believe we have made an official statement as far as that's concerned, and that's far off.
All right, but what are some of the things you look at with candidates to decide who your organization is supporting?
Well, it's a number of factors. I mean, this is a group, so we have a vast variety of chiropractors with all different type of political affiliations, and a lot of the times it's what is more expedient and useful for the organization as a whole. So we may have individuals who have, hold some things near and dear to their heart, but the organization may take a position that is most effective for chiropractic as a whole in the state of Georgia. Well, that being said, we will look at the person's voting history, if they have a history. And also we look at the person, what do they say, and more particularly, are they a chiropractic patient? Do we know a chiropractor who has treated them in the past? And that's usually the first step. We say, hey, who in our organization has treated this individual? And then we go to that doc and say, hey, doc, what's that person's outlook on chiropractic? Hopefully they had a good experience and they got well and they're a good chiropractic patient, and they would say, you know what? If a chiropractic bill comes up, I will support that bill. And that's all we can hope for right now, because we are a trade association first and foremost. And then we only do what's expedient, in that particular fashion.
Now, what are some sorts or some kinds of legislation that you think would hurt the Chiropractic Association, hurt what the goals of your organization in general?
Well, I mean, I don't like to look at, the glass as half empty. I don't like to think about, pessimistic views. I'm more of an optimistic nature. But, I mean, we want to make sure it's, like I said, it's fair, and want to give people a chance to earn a living without having any roadblocks, to chiropractic care. So anything that would prevent chiropractors from practicing, or limit the scope, or change the scope, or stop chiropractors from being reimbursed would definitely be bad. I think anybody can say that. Nobody wants to go to work and not get paid.
As an attorney, I can absolutely say that I agree with that 100 to 1,000%. Any clients of mine who owe me money currently, call into the station. We need those we need those payments coming in. The lawyer over here starving. But yeah, absolutely. but we're getting close to our next break. But I did want to just give you a chance to give your contact information. Let people find out how they can contact you. If any chiropractors who aren't members, how they can join, and also any candidates who are running who think that they support the Chiropractic Association and want them to understand that you support them, how they can get to know you.
Most definitely. My name is Dr. Winston Kyle Carhey Jr. I have a business, Pain to Wellness Center, 3915 Cascade Road, Suite 220, Atlanta, Georgia, 30331. My phone number there is 404-699-0966. That's 404-699-0966. My website, www.pain, PAIN, the number 2, wellness, WELLNESS.com. Now, for the association, the Georgia Chiropractic Association also has a website. That would be gachiro.org, gachiro.org, or gachiro.com. I believe actually goes to them as well. And that's where you can actually go on the Georgia Chiropractic Association website. There's a plethora of information there. You can actually call the headquarters there, and you'll speak to Terrence, who's a great guy there at the GCA headquarters. He'll give you all the information you need and find out how to get in contact with us. Now, as far as the PAC, if you want to find out about the PAC and how you can contact the PAC, that would be through me. Again, my phone number is 404-699-0966. We welcome all politicians from all spectrums to reach out to us, and we would love the support. And we love to show support, so we thank you.
All right, and for our listeners, if you could give them some takeaway points of what they need to do to support their chiropractic health, what would you tell them?
Well, actually, there's some great websites that are out there. Chiro Voice. Chiro Voice is one, and Adjust the Vote is another. Now, you can go on these websites and find out more about the legislation that I mentioned in this broadcast, and you can sign up to send a letter to your congressman, senator, whoever it may be, based upon your zip code, and that will send out a letter in support of any chiropractic legislation that may be there or that we might be considering in the future. And that is in a national level. Otherwise, you would contact your state associations, Georgia Chiropractic Association, and I want to mention another association that exists in Georgia as well, the Georgia Chiropractic Council, and contact them, and they also would be able to give you information on how to contact your senator or your state congressman as well.
All right, and fellas, remember, the good doctor has given you great advice today. Stretch, drink water, exercise, and figure out how to use your magic hands the right way, and you'll have a wife in no time. We're Love 860 AM WAEC. Calling numbers 404-355-8699. Present Politics with Rashad Ritchie and Robert Patillo. We'll be right back after the break.
Trying to sell your old car? Instead, donate your vehicle to Heritage for the Blind. Pickup is free and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-895-8035. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats, whether they run or not. Donate your vehicle and you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to over 50 locations. Call 1-800-895-8035. That's 1-800-895-8035.
Every Canyon Woods. Love getting outside. Love the hiking. hate the itching and irritation from poison ivy, bug bites, all the things that keep me inside. So I need something strong.
Cortisone 10 Intensive Healing is clinically proven with the strongest non-prescription itch medicine available for fast, long-lasting relief of itching and irritation with 7 moisturizers to help heal skin.
I finally have the relief I need.
Hey, Jan, check this out.
On my way.
Cortisone 10. Feel the heal.
Tune your radio.
Tune in.
Now.
You can tune into this radio station on any smartphone or tablet.
iPhone,
Android,
BlackBerry,
Nokia,
Samsung,
Windows phones,
or whatever you have. Download the free TuneIn app from your phone or tablet's app store.
Tune in with music, sports, news, and comedy.
From over 70,000 radio stations around the world, including this Beasley Broadcast Group station. Check it out at tunein.com.
Or your app store.
The world's largest circus under the big top is coming your way. The Cole Brothers Circus of the Stars presents the all-new 129th edition with Tigers, High Wire, Death-Defying Motorcycle Daredevils, and an international cast of amazing circus stars. This will be an explosive 2-hour musical spectacle under an enormous big top of crimson and gold. You don't want to miss the 129th edition of an American classic. It's the Cole Brothers Circus, enormously entertaining, amazing, affordable, where your family is always center ring. It's coming to you at Atlanta Motor Speedway 1500 on Highway 1941 South in Hampton. It will be on Friday, September 20th through Sunday, September 22nd. For showtime and tickets, go to tickets.com or give us a call at 1-888-332-5200. You can also visit gotothecircus.com for free kids tickets and more information. Cole Brothers Circus, where your family is always center ring.
There's only one radio station that gives you inspiration for every part of your life. Atlanta's all-new inspirational talk radio, Love 860, WAEC, featuring well-known local and national ministries you've come to trust, and a wide variety of programming that supports your healthy lifestyle, plus news, traffic, and weather to keep you in the know while you're on the go. It's talk that matters to you. Atlanta's all-new inspirational talk radio, Love 860, WAEC.
Good afternoon. This is Present Politics on Love 860 AM WAEC. Call in, join the conversation. Phone number is 404-355-8699. We just were left by the president of Georgia Chiropractic Association, and we got into some interesting points on local politics and the role of lobbyists and political action committees. I thought was just great. Now, Richie, is interesting because the doctor spoke about the fact that we have these political action committees that are active in Georgia and so many campaigns kicking off. And that made me realize that we haven't gotten around to talk about the Democratic side of the race. We talked about the Republican side of the states or the U.S. Senate race with Karen Handel and Paul Braun, Phil Gingrey, David Perdue getting in. But what about the Democratic side of the race?
Yeah, it's really shaping up to be a competitive battle right now. Obviously, the most talked about and arguably the front runner in front of many people's eyes is Michelle Nunn, based upon the fact that her father served in this seat for 25 years.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone. If you ask any of the older generations of Georgia, everyone knows who Sam Nunn is. But Michelle Nunn, his daughter, is running for Senate. I think she tried to run for office. What was it, state senate or something else a couple years back, but she pulled out. But we've also got Steen Miles, who's a former state senator. Up in North Atlanta, Stone Mountain area, who journalist actually for
30 years.
Yeah, 30 years. I mean, she worked with 11 Alive News on was an NBC affiliate, 11 Alive News, and was an anchor and won several Emmys with them. I mean, she's if we know anything about primaries in this state, the interesting thing is Democrats turn out well for primaries, and obviously the primary vote is mostly going to come from Atlanta.
Yes.
And for a city that's demographically slanted for black people, that is a good sign for someone like Steen Miles. So I think it brings that competitive edge to this race. We also have, the man that you can't pronounce the name of, but Dr. Rajilavaki, or as many people call Dr. Rad. He's
let's try to break this down so we can pronounce it. Is Rad Vaki.
Yeah.
Radulavaki. Dr. Bronco Radulavaki.
Yes. But for short, just Dr. Red. I think
I
that's
feel
easier
like
for
I
our
just
listeners.
said a curse word in Ukrainian or something. I'm not quite sure what just happened, but please.
Oh man, well,
but that is going to be Dr. Red. I've met with him. I spoke with him. He's a great guy. He's a cancer survivor. He's an ultra marathoner. He's active in his church. His wife's Stephen's ministers, going around counseling.
His resume is just
impeccable.
I mean, what he's got an MBA. He's got a master's in psychiatry. He's got this. I think he's been at least 4 or 5 Ivy League schools.
Yeah, he's gone to University of Chicago, Yale, Princeton. I'm not quite. The resume is incredible, but what I'm afraid of is being in Georgia and name being Branko Radulovački. that might be a barrier to him getting elected.
I hate to say it, and it doesn't help that he's a political newcomer. I mean, he's got an incredible CV. He's worked on Wall Street. He's been named Psychiatrist of the Year in Georgia. He's got it. And, I mean, the man has survived cancer and runs ultra marathons. Ultra marathons, for anyone that doesn't know, that's 50 miles. That's a lot of miles.
Yeah, so let's just put this in perspective for most of our listeners. So I'm a anti-marathoner, as in if I can walk the 50 feet from my kitchen back to the couch without having to take a break, I consider that an achievement. But Dr. Radulovački is able to run basically from Atlanta to, I don't know, like Macon, and take a break and then run back. And he's cool with that. He does that for fun. That's while you're sitting at home eating Cheetos, which is what I would be doing if I wasn't here, he is running 50 miles at a time after surviving cancer. But as we've realized in Georgia, I learned this when I ran for office with a last name Patillo in a Democratic primary. By the time my campaign was over, there were robocalls going out saying that I was a white Republican because my last name was Patillo. It's a rough sport.
I'll give you a funny story. Every time I told my family friends who are mostly white Buckhead people to look him up, Robert Patillo, they all say, "Oh, is he from the Patillo family in Georgia?" And I said, probably not. Probably not.
Also, if there are any members of the very rich Patillo family that I may or may not be related to, I'm your cousin. I need money. Please send checks. I will give you my address. Let's have a family reunion. Let's meet up. Let's hang out. But it looks like the Senate race is wide open right now. And it's still early, and there are a lot of other candidates who are talking about getting into the race. There's always the ever-present and always controversial Vernon Jones, who ran for Senate in 2008, barely lost to Jim Martin. It was a razor-thin runoff. He's considering running again. We've seen information that he may or may be already campaigning and just hasn't announced. Now, Vernon Jones has a lot of political baggage, mainly because he hitched his wagon to the young black Republican movement or young black conservative movement of the late 90s.
That's a real thing?
That existed in the late 90s. It was something that's the school of thought where you saw Alan Keyes come from, you saw Herman Cain come from, the self-made African-American who came up through poverty, no longer uses quote-unquote excuses to justify where he's at. So when Vernon Jones was the CEO of DeKalb County, he openly bragged about the fact that he voted for George Bush not once, but twice, for election and re-election.
Oh, goodness.
He actually expressed his conservative roots, and he thought that this would be a selling point during the general election. So that's going to be a huge hurdle for him to get over, especially him being in the Georgia political ecosystem for nearly 20 years now. He's a known commodity. He's not the new kid on the block anymore. So it's going to be very difficult for him to attract new voters.
Yeah. Well, the way I see this race is it's a different animal than the Republican primary, because unfortunately the Republican Party in this state is very powerful. Their coffers are lined, and they have a lot of control over who's going to win that primary. And on the other side of the table, the Democratic Party is all over the place. I mean, I don't know if many of you have paid attention, but they've had a complete upheaval this summer with their management and people that run the show over there. And they just elected Du Bois Porter as their new chairman. But the Democratic Party in this state has tried their hardest for a long time, but has not been organized anywhere close to the level that the Republican Party has been.
And you know, the reason that's significant, because you just said when we were talking about Michelle Nunn that she is the establishment pick.
Oh, she is.
She is who the establishment says is going to be the nominee.
But that doesn't mean anything.
Because the problem in this state is there is no Democratic, there is no centralized party that can pump, $10 million into a campaign to make sure that you win a primary. It just doesn't exist. Back in 2010, during the last election, you saw that during the general election on the Democratic side, it was every man for himself. You had Roy Barnes running for governor, who said he didn't know if he was going to vote for Michael Thurmond for United States Senate, even though they were on the same ticket.
Yeah.
You had counter messages coming from the lieutenant governor candidate, from the gubernatorial candidate. You had the secretary of state running this way and the labor secretary running that way. What you ended up with was a party that was fighting the Republicans at the same time it was fighting itself. So that's why we say that there can be no real establishment, quote unquote, candidate, because there is no establishment. Now, I think that what you said earlier about the demographics and where the votes come from during the Democratic primary probably makes Steen Miles the most intriguing candidate.
Definitely,
because when you look at it, you're looking at almost 65% of Democratic primary voters being African American women. Those are the most reliable voters in a Democratic primary. They turn out, they turn up, they turn on. They are absolutely the most reliable voters. So when you're dealing with Steen Miles, who's a African American woman over the age of 50, who's been on the news for 30 years, who many people know, who's active in the community, if she's able to raise the money that she needs, then you might see an upset in this race.
I think the Democrats have really need to take a hard look at this situation, because everyone's been talking about Michelle Nunn for a while in the Democratic circle. She announced early in June. Obviously with her dad's background, she's got the pedigree. She's got the national. The national surrounding about the whole situation. But if you really take a look at it, Miles has a chance not only to pull off this upset in the primary, but the levels of national support that could come in the general election are huge. Because not only would you have your first female Senate candidate in this state, but you'd have your first female and black Senate candidate for this state. While Georgia is a red state, it's been a red state for a good long time. I can tell you one thing: the level of national support that will come in for this race, and I will say, even if Michelle Nunn were to win this election or the primary election, she's a woman. The level of national support that could come in for this race could be huge, and really give Democrats a chance.
Definitely, and even if you look at the last election cycle for U.S. senators, it was the class of women. We had, for the first time, 20 female United States senators at once. This is the wave of the future. So it's going to be difficult for male candidates in this race. Now, if anyone's going to have a chance, it's going to be Dr. Radulovatsky.
You're never going to get it right.
I'm going to get it. Branko Radulovatsky. I'm gonna get it.
I just like to point out he is a United States citizen.
Yes,
and moved from the former Yugoslavia when he was 3 years old. So
and he
is American.
Yes, absolutely. But
as Republicans may try to argue he's not, but he is.
But what we're probably gonna see is that when this moves into the deeper part of primary, when we get into the early part of next year, we're gonna be seeing a lot of money coming in for Dr. Rad. He's gonna be raising more money than I think people think, with the connections he has in the medical community, in Wall Street, through the alumni networks he has with his colleges that he's been to. As we've said, he's been to all the Ivy League colleges and graduated from them and graduated with top marks. He's been the chiropractor of the year. We just had a chiropractor. So, I'm sorry. He's been, he's psychiatrist. He's won all these awards and accolades. He's going to be a formidable candidate. He's going to have the money to compete. He's one of the big things for statewide candidates in any state, not just in Georgia, is to make sure you can get in the mailbox and that you can get on air. If you get in the mailbox and if you get on air, you have a chance. It's all about raising the money that you need to get to that point. Because if you don't, one of the rules of politics is once you start, you can't stop. So once you start sending mailers, if you're sending a mailer each month, you have to send a mailer each month from the time you start until the election, because once you stop, people are going to start wondering what happened. Once you go up on air, if you're airing an ad a day on television, once you start that, you can't just all of a sudden go dark. So the candidates who win are the ones who have the financial backing, the financial wherewithal to get on air, stay on air, get their message out there, get their name out there, and then put the ground and the field strategy in place to make sure that they can compete on election day. And that's what's going to win this election, the demographics and the dollars.
Oh, definitely. I mean, you and I both know as political consultants that the lifeblood of a campaign is money. I mean, unfortunately, that's the name of the business. You've got to raise the kind of money you need. And the reason you need to raise the money is not only just to pay for expenses, but direct communications. And we know you guys hate it as much as we do sometimes, those robocalls and those ongoing TV ads. But unfortunately, they're the main way that you guys find out about candidates, because for a statewide election like United States Senate, there's no way you can talk to every single person or every registered Democrat or voter in this state and convince them to vote for you. It's just not possible. So TV, radio, mail, it's the only way to really get to the voters.
Yeah, we're about to go to our last break, but we have to make this point to people that that there's never a good way to communicate to voters. If you mail them, they get annoyed. If you call them, they get annoyed. If you put ads on television, they get annoyed. So what it comes down to is you got to talk to them somewhere. We're Present Politics, WAEC Love 860 AM, 404-355-8699.
We're mid-sized businesses, the engines of a smarter planet.
Our business depends on the movement of information.
Sure, we could use a free file transfer solution like FTP, but if our file transfers, payments, or orders are interrupted, then our business is interrupted.
Which makes that free solution quite costly.
Instead, we rely on Sterling Connect Direct from IBM.
24/7, unattended, uninterrupted, continuous data transfer.
Learn more at ibm.com/engines/connect.
Homeowners, in today's world, no neighborhood is immune from burglaries. Get a state-of-the-art monitored home security system for Protect Your Home, your authorized ADT dealer, and get peace of mind today. Call right now, 1-888-213-2244, 1-888-213-2244. Local permit fees may be required. License number CAACO 6320, KY City of Louisville 483, and FLEC 130033427. Call for additional numbers. Call now, 1-888-213-2244.
A car continuously filled with low detergent gas can only take you so far, while a car continuously filled with BP gasoline with Invigorate can go a little farther. When used continuously, BP gasoline with Invigorate helps clean and protect critical engine parts from harmful deposits, so your car can get a few more miles per tank compared to one that continuously uses low detergent gas. BP gasoline with Invigorate. Go a little farther.
123MyMD is your source for health information online. Everything's in one place. From medication to nutrition, dieting to parenting, symptoms to remedies, it's all at 123MyMD. A powerful search engine takes you to your topics fast, and you can trust the information because it's provided by some of the most respected physicians in the country. You'll get your information in 60 seconds or less. So give it a try today. Type in the numbers 123mymd.com. Better health as easy as 123MyMD.
Good afternoon, WAEC Love 860 AM. This is Present Politics with Rashad Ritchie and Robert Patillo. Today, Rashad Ritchie was not able to make it to the show. We wish him all the best. But we have our substitute pinch hitter, Richie North, in helping us out today. It's been a great show. Now, right now, I know most of you are probably multitasking because the Georgia game is on. And somehow, we are losing, or not losing, but we are tied now. We started out, we were up, what was it, 16-3 or something like that?
It was 17-3.
Yeah, 17-3, and now South Carolina's coming back. You want to do we're, as with all red-blooded men in the South, we love a few things. We love guns, we love SEC football, and we love ribs. So right now,
I'm actually a vegetarian.
You're a vegetarian now?
I'm kidding.
Yeah. When did that happen? My God.
No. I need my fix just like anyone else.
Exactly. So, for those of you who are currently multitasking and looking over at the Georgia game, yes, we are currently tied, and we're hoping our Bulldogs pull it out, and we're also hoping that tomorrow our Falcons versus Saints game.
You better believe I'm excited for that.
Yeah,
Goodness.
I know that there are Saints fans in existence, and I'm going to, before the game, give my prayers that your city can recover after the blowout that we put on you tomorrow.
Well, speaking of the Falcons, this could tie in perfectly with our political discussion. Is how controversial is this new stadium? How controversial?
I'm glad you brought that up.
And how far are we moving? What, like 100 yards down the road?
Absolutely.
And then wiping out 2 churches in the process and destroying some neighborhoods? Oh, that's going to be wonderful.
Well, you see, this is the issue with stadium politics, not just in Atlanta, but nationwide, that the stadiums that are usually built don't, one, benefit the communities that they're built in, and two, don't benefit the individuals because the people in those communities can't afford to go to the games.
Oh, good.
The entire reason we're building a new stadium isn't because the Georgia Dome is broken.
It's because Arthur Blank wants one.
Not just that. One, he wants one, but two, they need to put more skyboxes and suites in. So Home Depot can have a suite, and Walmart can have a suite, and Coke.
To me, the perfect example is the new Yankee Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
Because stadium, that stadium had been around forever, and everyone, any diehard Yankees fan will tell you they were so sad when that stadium was torn down.
Mm-hmm.
They love that stadium. It may have been run down, it may have been whatever, but they love that stadium. And so many fans will tell you now they have been priced out of seats.
Yep.
And the new Yankee Stadium because it's so expensive, and I understand. I'll tell you one thing. I love sitting in a box at a Falcons game. I love sitting in good seats. But I don't want to price out the people that are the ones that are the lifeblood of the team. I mean, the whole reason the Dome was so successful as a home venue and we were so good at home is because our fans were amazing.
Exactly.
And I can't see. I don't want to see this happen again.
And it's funny because we have all the business elites, the upper crust, the economic interests who stand to gain for this, and they keep telling us like, no, this is a great idea. We're going to invest in the community. It's going to be great for the neighborhood. If it's going to be such a good idea for the neighborhood, why aren't we putting the stadium in Buckhead? How about why aren't we tearing down some $1 million mansions to put a $1 billion stadium there? Why is that never proposed?
Well, the thing for me too is Atlanta is one of the worst cities at city design. I mean, we all know we're not a grid format like many major cities. Like there are hundreds of peach trees. Like the streets go all over the place. It's Atlanta. I've lived in my whole life, and it's still one of the hardest cities to navigate.
Absolutely,
you always got to figure out where you're going. But it's so difficult to get to a sports game. I mean, specifically like Turner Field. And people wonder, well, why are the Braves, why even though we're one of the best team in the National League or in the MLB, why is our attendance not as good as, say, like the Philadelphia Phillies or the Yankees? It's because it's hard to get to a game. It's much easier to sit at home on your couch, watch the game, and eat dinner.
And then also it's also because when you think about it, there's nothing around the stadiums in Atlanta.
Yeah.
We do such a poor job of zoning and city planning because our political interests are so disconnected from the people they affect. The business interest and the political interest work together on this side, and then you have the actual people on this side, and they don't talk to each other. Any other city that you go to, when you leave the sports arena, there's an entire line of businesses on every side of the road sitting there ready for you to patronize. There are t-shirt shops, there are bars, there are clubs, there are venues, there's an entire ecosystem built around it. When you leave a Braves game, when you leave a Falcons game, when you leave a Hawks game, the only thing you can do is get in your car, hop on 75
and sit in traffic for a good 30 minutes.
Exactly, to try to get away from the stadium.
And the thing for me too is I would understand is if this stadium, the new Falcon Stadium, was an upgrade. Yeah. Obviously it's going to be an upgrade. It's going to be nicer. The Georgia Dome is 20 years old. In reality, in a stadium lifespan, that's not that old.
No, not at all.
If you think about it, I mean, the new stadium, the difference is it's going to be shiny and new, and it's going to have a retractable roof, which is the main selling point. If in all honesty, the goal of $1 billion stadium project is just to put in a retractable roof so that we can have outside football games, and in the process you're tearing down churches, you're moving in neighborhoods, and you're basically migrating a stadium literally 100 yards down the road and destroying a neighborhood in the process, I don't see the benefit of that. I see more downfall of that.
And this is not as if this is the first time this has happened. It's not as if this is the second time this has happened in Atlanta. This happens again and again, and because the people's voice is so muted compared to the dollars of the special interest groups, that's why we see it happen over and over again. Perfect example were the Olympics. Before the Olympics, I was a kid then, but I remember these arguments, these conversations, which were, well, the Olympics are going to bring so much money to the city, it's going to turn us into a major international hub that we need to literally take entire communities, bulldoze them, take the people in those communities, put them on buses to nowhere, and then build stadiums. We need to build housing. We need to build dormitories. We need to build a park. And you saw all of the housing projects in Atlanta disappear. You saw Techwood disappear. You saw so many of the ghettos in Atlanta just evaporate. Now, they didn't evaporate because these people all of a sudden got high-paying jobs at the Olympics and moved into the middle class. No, we just put them on a bus, sent them to Clayton County, cut off bus service, got rid of the accreditation for the schools, and left them there. That's what happened after the Olympics. It's not that somehow it improved the lives of the lower classes. It improved the middle class. It gave a couple more tourist attractions, but the underlying issues still existed. And so these poor communities who had to sacrifice, these communities that had to who now have to deal with the traffic of 100,000 people leaving Turner Field, or have to deal with the traffic on Northside Drive of tailgaters going to Falcons games, they haven't seen the benefits. You still see rundown slums. You still see communities that are that look like third world countries, sometimes within walking distance of what was an Olympic stadium where millions of people came to see the Olympics.
I know.
You see that those dormitories that were for the athletes during the Olympics, they didn't turn those into housing for poor people. They didn't turn those into something that would benefit the lower class or the lower middle classes. They turned them into dormitories for Georgia State and Georgia Tech. So again, you see that this is another situation where the money keep cycling around to the money. The people with money are getting richer, people without money are getting poorer, and the people without money don't have a voice to do anything about it.
Well, I mean, the thing for me is so much of this is obviously making more money, driving up ticket sales, more costly, expenses for paying for these tickets. If this city really wanted to drive up ticket sales for all of its sporting teams, why don't we create a unified public transportation system that can get people to the games?
Yes.
You don't need to spend that money on gas driving to the game and finding a parking lot pass and all that. Take MARTA, take some kind of bus or anything to the game. It's what most cities do, except for us.
And I remember when I lived in Chicago, one of the greatest things that I enjoyed was right on the red line. What you could do, I lived on the south side of Chicago, so you could take the train to Wrigley for a day game and then hop right back on the red line and go to Kaminsky or U.S. Cellular for a White Sox game that night. Didn't have to get in your car. You could go to all the bars. You could enjoy the fun atmosphere of the game. You didn't have to worry about parking. All you had to do was pay for your ticket and you were in. But in Atlanta, that's not possible. I couldn't imagine. I've seen people try to do it. I just can't imagine taking public transportation to some of these games. It's crowded. It's slow. It's unreliable. In some cases, people feel that it's dangerous. Because we don't invest in. We haven't invested in the public transportation that we needed. We see so many of these issues just continuing to snowball. They're just rolling and rolling and rolling, and we don't really have a solution for it. So we're going to take $1 billion of public money, or $200 million of public money, $800 million is being kicked in by Arthur Blank and the NFL. If we're going to use this money, why don't we use that money to, one, upgrade the Georgia Dome to whatever else you need? We'll put a Jumbotron in somewhere. We'll squeeze in some more skyboxes. I don't know how hard it would be to cut a hole in the roof of the Georgia Dome, and then take the rest of the money and invest in codifying a transportation system that will get people to and from the games, and then also invest the money in building up the neighborhoods around it to get the patrols and the lighting and the things that are needed to make it a safe environment to walk to the game, to leave the stadium and go hang out with your friends after the game, to tailgate somewhere where it's safe and it's well lighted, to make sure that you have an ecosystem and an economy that benefits everyone. So that the money inside of the dome doesn't just stay in the dome. The money inside of the dome seeps out and benefits everyone around it. I would like to see middle-class houses around the new Georgia Dome. I would like to see people walking dogs and jogging along the sides of Turner Field. Instead, you have Mechanicsville. Instead, you have the Pittsburgh community. Instead, when you leave a Braves game, if you take 2 turns, you're on a street lined with drug dealers and pimps. That's literally a couple turns from the Georgia Dome. It's not a safe environment, and instead of investing so much money directly into these stadiums, we need to invest it into the people. Now, everyone, I'd like to thank you for joining us for our inaugural episode of Present Politics with Rashad Richey and Robert Patillo. I would love to thank our guest today, Richie North, for pinch hitting for Rashad. You've been absolutely wonderful today. We're going to have you on often. And I hope for our listeners that you'll join us every 6 on Love 860 AM WAEC. Thank you so much. You have a blessed day.
What we have is an opportunity to begin the wave of justice right here in Georgia, right here